Hey everyone, welcome to Out of the Reads with me, your host, Natasha Preckajlo. I'm really excited for this week's show. For the first time, actually, we'll be interviewing someone that I don't actually personally know. Alice O'Connell reached out to me via email after hearing the show with Isabella Gorey, my cousin's daughter, and was really moved by what she heard and wanted to have a conversation. Our paths or our ethos were aligned for each other. So I'm really excited to share her story and to have the chat on the show about her life. She lives in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, with her family of 3. She runs a teaching knitting business. So super excited to get into the whole story with you guys on Out of the Reads with Alice. But before we do, I always like to get into these kinds of reads. And I felt really called today to do the numbers. So how I've done it before on the show is it's a book full of numbers, right? Angel numbers and the meanings of them, the spiritual connotations of these numbers that we see sometimes in succession, in our lives. This is kind of how spirit or the soul connection speaks to me a lot. I often find that I'll be going through my day or days, and I tend to see the same number over and over. So I like to stop and kind of take notice of those things. A lot of you, or maybe some of you, might resonate with 1111 or other numbers that you've seen. So I figured we'd do a read for the show today and see what we get. So I'm going to close my eyes and then I'm going to just flip through and feel where I want to stop, like here. And there's 2 sides of the page. So you can see there's several sets of numbers. I think there's probably a total of 6 numbers on each page or something like that. But I'm going to stop here. Okay, so I stopped on 353. And sorry, there's a total of 4 numbers on each page. It says, find physical strength. Your angels want you to demonstrate inner strength and discipline by mirroring it to your physical form. Do a challenging exercise today and show yourself what you're made of. If there are skills you need to develop, take note and get to it. Well, I don't know about you guys, but this one speaks to me because it's definitely been time to get back into the groove. School is starting, and I'm definitely feeling the need to get back into the gym swing. So thanks for the message for that today. And let's get into the reads with Alice. Well, I'm so glad you did, because clearly in alignment, I think it's so amazing that you teach knitting to people, because I know how to knit, but I can only do very basic stitches. So I think it's really
cool.
Well,
you're more than welcome. Anytime you want to expand your skills, I've got a whole bunch of classes.
So how did you get started with knitting, and what does it mean to you? Because I know in just a little bit of our correspondence, you kind of mentioned that it was a way to ground yourself. So how did you come to be in that space with knitting?
So I was working as a TV and theatre actress in the UK, and it seemed to be my luck that every time I got a TV job, I was filming on location. It was winter, or at least cold and dark. Mm-hmm. And of course, you have to be up so early and you're in costume and makeup very early. And then they put you in these overheated little trailers until they're ready for you, until they're all set up and ready.
Right.
And it's so hard not to fall asleep. And I'm a method trained actress, so I didn't want to read things that weren't outside of the world of my character. But often by the time of my filming days, I was kind of at capacity with the script and research and so on. So you're trying to find this balance between not kind of over rehearsing yourself and, and being fresh and ready to go on set. Anyway, on one of these occasions, I failed at not falling asleep and fell fast asleep while wearing a big warm-up coat. And they came and knocked for me and said, we're ready for you. And I woke up and I had this big zip mark across my face. And of course, they're not going to wait for you. So
right.
I'm walking with the ADs and I'm frantically rubbing at it. And it was fine. But one of the ADs, and I wish I could remember which show this was because they obviously kind of changed my life. They said to me, you might want to take up knitting because it's a really good way of being calm and focused and yet very present and very engaged in your surroundings. And so that Christmas, I actually asked my mother as a specific gift. I said, I don't want anything else. I knew she knew the very basics of how to knit.
Right.
And I said, I would like you to teach me how to knit.
Wow.
And she got me some acrylic yarn, some basic needles. She didn't know how to teach me how to cast on, how to start. So she started, and then she taught me the knit stitch. And I was just instantly hooked, pardon the pun. And I just initially knitted the longest scarf in the world. And then I was on another job and it really was the longest scarf and I didn't know how to finish. And a crew member took pity on me and said, do you want me to show you how to cast off? And I said, yes, please. And this scarf was unwearable. It was so big. But then I was so desperate to knit and I didn't know how to start. And that kind of started my real journey because I started learning from books and all sorts. It was kind of pre-YouTube, not to age myself.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
That really informed my classes because I'm self-taught and to me, the classes are about so many things. Obviously, I'm teaching people how to knit, but really I'm teaching people sometimes how to rediscover themselves, how to reconnect with themselves, how to develop a tool, a coping mechanism that is healthy and helpful in such a fast-paced world. And I'm teaching people how to feel empowered.
Yeah.
And I see that in every class I teach. It's such a privilege. It really is extraordinary.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's funny, I don't talk about it a lot, but I also teach business skills to kids in Egypt. My cousin started an online school, and so I teach kids ages like 8 to 17. But I, like you, I've learned so much along the way in doing that and getting to see them unfold and expand how they view the world it's a privilege, like you're saying. So that's really cool.
That's very cool as well, what you do.
Yeah, I mean, my cousin asked me, he's like, will you teach this? And I was like, I don't have a degree in business. My degree is in psychology and social work. And so, he was just like, yeah, but you have a way of like speaking.
I would have never said to you that I'm a teacher, but I realize after it's been 20 plus years now of teaching, because I started teaching very quickly after knitting myself because friends were asking me like, I want to learn and so on.
That's amazing.
And I realized that really, I mean, don't get me wrong, like you have to know, there are certain subjects you have to know a lot about. But I think really it's about communication and it's about like whether you can connect with somebody and whether you can speak to and help people navigate, particularly adults, their imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And their anxiety and so on. It's, as I say, it's a really remarkable experience.
That's amazing. You also mentioned too that you're a survivor of breast cancer. So did that help you knitting? Because I don't know in terms of like the trajectory of when you started teaching and when you were diagnosed, and of course in there your motherhood as well. So how did knitting help you on those journeys?
So knitting had already been, thank goodness, a really healthy coping mechanism. I mean, like many people, I had developed coping mechanisms that ended up being unhealthy. And having to swap them out for something else. The very first time I went to therapy, my therapist actually said to me, I was already knitting, and she said, you should always keep your knitting with you. It's a very therapeutic practice, and it's clearly a very healthy way for you to kind of keep some kind of boundary, keep a kind of personal space. It's a socially acceptable thing to do, so you can walk into situations that you find triggering or difficult or complex, and you can knit in them. And you are still there and you are still present, but you're also kind of creating some space for yourself. So I think my journey into motherhood with knitting, to answer that part of the question, it helped me reconnect to myself. I was, like so many people, adored my daughter, but also felt completely like I had abandoned myself. I had no idea who I was anymore or even what I had to talk about other than nap schedules. It's just like, there's more to me, I know, somewhere. So the knitting really served as a way to just gently find little moments, during nap times to reconnect with myself, with my sense of creativity, just to give myself something for me.
Right.
When you are caring so much, it's again a privilege, but obviously that costs a lot. And this was a way of me refilling my cup in a very manageable way. And then when it came to being diagnosed with breast cancer, which was in 2024.
Wow. So very recent.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago this February.
Wow.
As I say, I'd already had this long practice of knitting and I was so grateful for it. Through that journey, it helped me firstly find a healthy channel for my anxiety. Because literally when you're putting that energy into your hands and doing a repetitive motion, the science of that is that you are telling your nervous system and your breath to regulate, and that tells you that you're safe in this moment. And I am, the Dutch call it clean, which is such a strange expression, but I am clear.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. But yeah, that when you are a patient in that kind of regard, your life is taken up with side effects and supporting medications and appointments and test results and obviously hair loss and all those kind of things. So the knitting really helped me identify with something else outside of all of that and connect to who I am in a very calm way.
Yeah.
I knitted a lot.
I'm sure. Obviously, having knitting as a grounding tool, which is amazing. And I'm so glad that you had established that to get you through. But how did you first know that you had breast cancer, and how was that for you and your family?
Yeah, so I found the lump myself. So I would be remiss in not seizing this opportunity for anyone listening. Please do regular self-exams. It takes minutes. I used to do them regularly in the shower. I would do them every, I don't know, couple of weeks. And just as I was washing, I would just check.
Right.
But when you do that regularly, then you are the first to notice when something is off, when something is strange. And as it had happened, I hadn't done that, a self-exam, for a couple of weeks. And I was in bed one evening and realized that and thought, I haven't done that for a while. And so I just did it in bed. I just literally felt under my arms and all around my breasts and so on. And quite high up, I felt this lump, which was reminiscent for me of, if you breastfeed, you could get these blocked glands.
Right, ducts. Yeah.
Yes. And it felt like that. And I honestly, my first thought was, my daughter was at that time 5 years old.
Okay.
And I honestly thought to myself, whoa, did I just miss, like, all these years later? I'd stopped breastfeeding her when she was like a year and a couple of months or something.
Right.
And I literally was like, did I never get this one out? Did I never massage this one out or whatever? And I said to myself, it was night, and I'm luckily enough, I know nothing gets resolved. Your rational brain is not available to you. So I was just, park this. Let's check it in the morning. It's probably not as bad as you think. Anyway, it was there in the morning. There wasn't one on the other side. I went to see my doctor about a week later. She performed an exam and said, I think it probably is a blocked gland because of the position, because it was quite high up.
I see.
And she said, but let's get a mammogram and an ultrasound just in case. And that was about a week later. And I literally just thought, they're going to tell me it's an a blocked gland. It won't be a big deal. And luckily, my husband, he's a director and he was in an edit at the time, he said, I'm going to come with you. And I was like, I know you don't have to, because I knew he was busy. And he, no, I'm going to come. And I'm so pleased he did. It was the most insane Monday of my life.
Wow.
So I had the mammogram. And they don't tell you anything. They're all nice, but you don't have any kind of indication or clue. And then I went through and had the ultrasound, and there was something that I cannot really articulate, but the atmosphere changed. It was something shifted in the energy of the room. Yeah. And I thought, I don't think this is good. And they basically there and then took a biopsy and told me that within an hour we would know whether it was cancer.
Wow.
And I asked the ultrasound technician, I said, I was shaking by then and tears just pouring down. And I said to her, I think you have seen enough, of this in your career. I need to know what you think so that I can prepare myself. And she said, obviously we have to wait for the test results, but I think this is breast cancer. This is the Netherlands Cancer Institute, where they have a couple of cafes in this huge hospital. Okay. And my husband and I sort of sat there. I don't even know what we ate or drank, waiting for this hour. And then one of the nurses, who ended up being my practitioner nurse, came and got us. And I knew that the way they didn't quite look at me, then they took us into a little room and they told me that it's breast cancer and it would take 7 days for the biopsy to be fully investigated for them to determine what type of cancer it was and therefore the speed at which it was growing,
right,
and what the treatment plan would be. So in my case, that was a very strange cycle home because obviously here in Amsterdam, we bike everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a horrible 7 days where your brain is just on overdrive.
Yeah.
And you're, as a mum as well, you're looking at your little girl and just freaking out. But I
Wow.
discovered it wasn't the slowest growing, but it wasn't the fastest growing.
Okay.
And it was hormone receptive cancer. And they felt that they could perform a surgery to remove it. And then based on that, probably a bit of radiation and it would be fine. But in my case, when they took it out, the margins weren't very clear. There was lots of precancerous cells. And so it was determined that it would be better to have a full mastectomy and also a full 16-round course of chemo.
Wow.
Just to be safe in case anything had broken off and was lying dormant in my body. And now I'm on a long-term medication that sort of manages the estrogen in my body, which is what was fueling the cancer. So that is my breast cancer story all in one.
I mean, that's huge. Yeah. And you, at the time, you said your daughter was 5. So I can only imagine, I mean, having 2 and my youngest just turned 5 like 3 days ago. I can only imagine the feeling of, oh, thank you. And you too. When did you find out that you were clear? How long did it take once,
So the whole thing was done in 9 months. And I mean, that's the reason I think it's really important, firstly, to remind people to check themselves. But what I really learned through my experience is to finish the sentence. But when it comes to anxiety, often we get really worried about what if it's cancer?
Right.
And then if you finish the sentence, well, then I will have treatment,
Right.
But what if I have to have chemo? Well, then you will have chemo and your hair will grow back or whatever it may be,
Right.
So I do think it's super important for me to, share that I had the whole thing was dealt with. I had 2 surgeries, 16 rounds of chemo, all within a 9-month period. And I had my exit interview, as I call it. I had my final chemo and my exit interview on the 10th of November, which now this might be a bit woo-woo.
No, we're here for the woo.
Yeah. I had the strangest experience all the way through my journey was in that I kept seeing matching numbers, and particularly 1111. And I kept seeing them just before I was diagnosed, to the point where I was like, what is this? And I was making a log in case my brain was telling me I was seeing it more than I really was. And I would make a note every time I saw the time. And it was something like 85% of the time they were matching numbers. And when I found out that my last chemo was going to be the 11th of November, it felt a really beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I was told in my exit interview that, I was all clear. I obviously have regular scans and checks, but I had a very low chance of recurrence. I obviously do get anxiety about secondary breast cancer and about it coming back. But what I try to sort of mentally use to make peace with is that none of us know what's going to happen.
Yes.
But we all sort of think in a weird way we're entitled to a long life.
Right.
But there's so much just out of our hands,
Control.
whether that's cancer, whether that's being hit by a tram. And I realize we just have to really be appreciative of every day, and particularly if we are well and able.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I love the full circle of you seeing the numbers, completing your treatment and being cleared, and it's on 11/11. I mean, I love that. I don't think it's too
Isn't
woo.
that crazy?
I think it's a beautiful completing of that journey for you. So that's really amazing. You, in saying that you were in Netherlands, like how, and I'm listening, it sounds like you're from the UK. So how did you end up in the Netherlands?
Yeah, no, I am. I'm a Brit in Amsterdam. So I'm half English, half Irish, from London. How did we end up here? So we've been here 13 years. My husband's also English.
Okay.
my daughter's obviously born here and, is bilingual and so on. But
I'm sure.
But yeah, I'd been working as an actress and in London, and it had just got to a point where the amount of work it took to be there felt like it was leaving less and less space to be creative.
Yeah.
And I was turning up to auditions feeling kind of tired, and I started to feel a cynicism growing in me and a bitterness, and I just thought, this isn't working for me anymore. And so we started looking at other places to live, but we had no connection to anywhere else in the UK other than places I had done shows. So we were having this conversation, where do we go? Where do we go? And in the midst of that, he had booked as a birthday gift for the two of us to come over here for a weekend.
Okay.
We had no intention of moving here, but we were so taken aback by how beautiful it is, how short the flight was, how widely English is spoken in Amsterdam in particular.
Right, yes.
I knew I wanted to transition from acting into setting up a small knitwear label, quite a niche knitwear label. And Amsterdam is a real place of celebration for independent businesses.
Okay.
And entrepreneurs and so on. And so basically we just had our heads turned. We were just like, ooh. And then we came home, obviously having stayed in a hotel and spent loads of money. We came home, we're like, yeah, we could live there. But I just said to my husband, why don't we throw it into the mix? Like, why don't we consider it? And this was pre-Brexit.
Okay.
So for him, I'm here as an Irish citizen on my Irish passport, but for him as a Brit, it was manageable. Anyway, we just decided, give it a year, see what we think. We didn't have any other responsibilities. We weren't parents then. We weren't homeowners. We sold everything we weren't emotionally attached to. We packed up a van with our 2 cats and a lot of wool. And after the first year, we just felt like we were just starting to get a grip on it all and understand it all. And it's been really good to us. And I feel like we've grown up here.
Yeah.
Because I came here, when I was 30, and I'm now, a mum and business owner and homeowner and all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. Yeah. And your daughter was born there, so now she's, like you said, kind of 2 cultures kind of in the same household.
A very
How's
traditional, it's very interesting. So it was a very traditional Dutch home birth.
Okay.
So she was born in the living room.
Amazing.
With a Dutch doula and midwife. It's great. It's just super interesting because she lives in an English household.
Yes.
And yet the rest of her life is Dutch. So she goes to Dutch school. Her friends are Dutch. When she goes to their houses, invariably it's Dutch, I say, because it is quite international here. So she does have lots of friends who are half American or half Brazilian. English too, but it kind of comes about in terms of they have a very different childhood to the childhood that my husband and I had. It is a lot freer. It is a lot more independent. You don't have to be quite so vigilant in terms of safety. And so on. Yeah, they're very outdoorsy. People look out for other people's kids.
Right.
Independence is a real quality that is nurtured and encouraged.
Wonderful.
So that's where we find some, particularly now she's 7 and, she wants to, she'll be going back to school next week, for example. And she has been asking, I want to walk to school on my own. And the school is literally at the bottom of our road. It's incredibly close, but there is a small road to cross. And we're having to we have to trust her. We have to, she knows what she's doing and we can't hold her back because our culture is maybe more...
For sure, hand-holding.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but there's also things like the Dutch are a lot more direct. They won't say please and thank you as much. Now, as a Brit, that is integral to me. I can't communicate without pleases and thank yous. And so in her case, I'm trying to find the right level of correcting her and recognizing that, I'll say it in the supermarket and people will, the cashier will look at me with a very confused expression like, why? What?
Right.
So I'm trying to find the balance and not...
Middle ground.
Yeah. And be respectful of that she's not having the same culture and childhood that I am and was. So, yeah.
That's so interesting. So my parents are both immigrants. My mother is from Barbados and my father's from Egypt, and they met in New York. And so I'm first generation American, but they would often talk about, like, I remember Halloween being a thing. My parents were like, why is this a thing here? Like, why are children coming to the door and asking for candy?
Yeah.
And me, being like, I want to go and do Halloween. Like, I want to go and be with my friends. And I just remember my dad kind of being like,
is this? Yeah.
What? Like, it's like you're begging for food. I'm like, no, it's not.
So true.
Yeah. So I get that.
They have a similar holiday here, actually. It's called Saint Martin, and it's not Halloween, but it is in many regards the same kind of thing. It's about celebrating the light in the darkness, and it happens in November. And they make little paper lanterns and they go, excuse me, door to door singing songs in exchange for candy. And candy's not really a big thing here. So it's the kids get so excited about it.
Yeah.
And yet before we had her, we didn't know about any of these traditions, of course. Like the doorbell would go and suddenly my husband and I both look at each other. Oh my God, no, it's Saint Martin. And we're completely unprepared.
Is there anything that you feel like, that you miss about being in Britain, now having experienced both cultures and raising a child internationally?
I would be lying if I said that I missed England particularly.
Okay.
I miss friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
It's really lovely to go and see them. And they're becoming more and more disparate, spread around. We actually just returned from doing a big, what we call our annual tour all across the UK to see everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the quality of life that we're able to give my daughter, we just wouldn't be able to have there. And I think particularly over the last 13 years, the UK has changed a lot, like a lot of the world.
Right.
But it's not really the country we left, and so, or recognize in many ways. So, yeah, I think we're very grateful to be here and that it's worked out. And I have to say, I'm particularly grateful that the health experience I had. It's a very different system here.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that I got to be here.
Here in the States, there's a lot of people wanting a better quality of life. So it's interesting to hear you say that you feel the same way, even from, the UK to the Netherlands, even though it's a short flight distance, there's a great change. Is there anything that you would want to say to someone if they asked you about any piece of advice about your journey, whether it be their health or mothering through a health situation or even, mothering in a new culture, or just how to handle all of those things?
It's quite a big question, but
it is, I know.
I think, so moving to another country, becoming a parent, going through a health maybe journey, I think really what they all have in common is that they challenge your identity. They challenge the labels that you have given yourself or others have given you, and you often can feel untethered without those labels. And I guess my advice would be to just find whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything performative. Ideally, it's not performative, actually, but something that just quietly gives you some peace and some joy, whatever that may be, and just seize the little windows of time for it, because that is how you will reconnect to who you are, the very core of who you are, without external labels and validation and so on. And it'll reinforce your foundation. So yeah, I think that's the best I can give you in that answer.
Yeah. No, I think it was a fantastic answer. And I really just love the fact that knitting has been that, it sounds like, for you, and has been the peace and the grounding that you've needed along so many facets of your life. It sounded like it's like it ties it all together. Yeah, the thread.
It really is.
Thank you, the thread.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
It's allowed me to connect with people. It's allowed me to connect with myself.
Yes.
Even like as a mother, I felt like I was in a uniform. My priority in terms of clothing was, can I get to my boobs quick enough?
Yes. Exactly.
And can I be in a cafe and not necessarily be sitting there topless. I remember many times walking out with my, having got my daughter in the pram or the buggy, and about 10 steps down the street being like, oh my God, what am I? Oh, okay, I'm not in pajamas. It's fine. So I felt completely lost. Like I'd lost myself out of a sense of care and function and so on. And one of the other reasons, the ways that knitting really helped me reconnect with myself, is just gentle decisions about what colors did I like? What colors did I want to put together? It didn't have to be anything fancy I was making. It's definitely been an enormous help to me. And as I say, an enormous privilege as well, because getting to witness people coming to my classes, you can sense the noise in their head of them thinking, I'm going to be the one that doesn't get this. I'm going to be the one that holds everything up, or whatever it may be. And coaching them gently through that and getting them to the place that everyone gets to, whether you're following one of my online classes or my in-person classes, everybody can knit. And once they realize that, whether they want to be a knitter is, obviously I hope to inspire you, but
right.
It's not really the whole kind of goal. That moment where they realize they did it. I've had women say to me, "My God, I feel confident enough to try ceramics class," or whatever it may be. It's literally the highlight.
For sure.
Of my week when I wait. I know where the moment comes. It becomes around the half hour in, 45 minutes in. I've had people burst into tears on me, once they've done it, because of just sheer delight and relief. And yeah, it's beautiful.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing all your story, Alice. And for those who have listened and would like to get in touch or figure out how to knit with you, what would they need to do?
They can head to my website, which is learntoknit.nl, or you can find me on Instagram, which is learntoknitonline. And you will find a whole range you can do knit-along projects, you can do classes, complete beginner courses. There's all sorts of things there. And all of my classes, whether you're having them live online with me or you're choosing the pre-recorded options, I really ensure that they're fun and friendly and welcoming. And yeah, I think you'll enjoy it no matter what.
Well, that's awesome. I can feel the warmth and the fun from you sitting on this side of the screen. So I can only imagine it must translate into your classes. So, well, thank you so much for doing this and for coming on the show.
This was an absolute delight. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story and what I do. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Of course. Hey, everyone. Well, thanks for stepping out of the reeds with Alice and I on today's show. I'm super excited that we got a chance to meet with her and share her story. And for those of you listening, I'm super excited for our next week. We have more things coming your way. And in the meantime, you can always check out and what we have cooking up for you within the next coming months with the retreat that we're planning later in the year, as well as joining my book group and writing group, which will be coming up in August here soon. So check those out on outofthereeds.com, as well as if you're so called to find out even why I started this or the whole arc of why the show even exists, you can also purchase my book, The Art of Motherhood, which is kind of the origin story of Out of the Reeds. For those of you who are interested in being on the show, if you're called to share your story, feel like you have a unique one, or feel like you know someone who might, feel free to reach out and send me an email, natasha@outofthereeds.com. I would love to connect and get a chance to hear more interesting stories. Of course, I love connecting and developing the stories of those who are actually personally in my life, but I'm always open to new stories, and just reach out and say, hey, I would love to connect. So thanks again for listening to the show, and stay tuned for all the things coming up. Again, you can follow us on outofthereeds.podcast on Instagram and outofthereeds.com as the website. Have a great one, guys. We'll see you next week.